Chapter 10 continues the discussion of Teshuvah Ilah, the higher form of penitence, of Teshuvah. Teshuvah means, just a reminder, Teshuvah. The deeper meaning, based on the Zohar, it means to return the hay. The word Teshuvah. Tashuv, to return. Hay, the letter hay. The letter hay in God's name. So we have the lower level, which is the latter hay in God's name, and then we have the former hay, which is the higher level of Teshuvah. As we explained, this form of Teshuvah has got nothing to do with sin. It's got nothing to do with fixing a problem in our lives, which we all have things that we need to fix. This is about what we've learned till now, a desire, a longing to cleave, to merge my spirit in the Spirit of God. How? Through Torah study and tzedakah, acts of loving kindness, and the like. What we learned till now is that through a meditation, we can meditate on that powerful connection, and then that will lead us to a desire to do the mitzvahs, to study Torah, and we will do it in a manner of cleaving, merging my soul, my spirit in God. Now, what we've learned till now is, so to speak, a direction from above to below. In other words, my meditation upon what it means to study Torah, which we're doing right now. It's a phenomenal thing. But what we gain far outweighs our appreciation, our effort involved in the study of Torah. In other words, when I study Torah, what a divine gift we're given, that the words I'm saying are God's words. The wisdom that I have is His wisdom. An infinite wisdom that I entertain by understanding His teachings. That far is above and beyond any meditation, any effort that I put in and engage to desire to cleave to Him. So that's, in a sense, above from to below, that I'm gaining so much more than what I'm putting in. Likewise, when in a mitzvah, that when I do a mitzvah, God is embracing me. Literally, the supernal right arm, as it were, embraces me through my doing of a mitzvah. Now the Alter Rebbe is going to teach us in this chapter. That was sort of a review of what the beginning of this chapter reviews this idea of what we learned previously, is that there is another way to reach Teshuvah Ilah, this supernal return, and that is not something that is sort of gifted from above, but it's something that I give from within. What can I give from within? The place where the biggest struggle is. And where's that? Our heart. Our heart is the biggest place for a struggle. Right? That's where the negativity lies. You know, that the Torah has to tell us. I'm adding this. The Alter Rebbe doesn't say this over here. He sells it elsewhere. Don't go after your heart's desire that your eyes see and stray you from the path. So our eye sees, but we already have an inclination in the heart for that which we see, and that brings us on a negative path. So it's in the heart that I have where I have to make the changes within me, where I have to dig deep. So where's that going to be? In prayer. Prayer is what's going to give me that capability. of reaching the higher level of tshuva where I could cleave my spirit and God's spirit, but coming from within, from below to above, where I can merge and become united in one and bound up with God. And this is in particular in the Shema that we say. Why in particular the Shema, the prayer of the Shema Yisrael? Because first of all, it's about understanding, but then something understanding that leads to the heart. It is about a transformation that takes place from within. It is about the oneness of God that I perceive, Hashem Echad, the oneness of God that I perceive, but then bring it into my heart to allow my heart to love God. That I should love Him with all my heart and with all my soul. That, again, is from within. And then from there, that will bring me that I can, as the command says in the Shema, they shall be upon your heart and you shall speak of them. Meaning, Torah. So this will now lead me to say the words of Torah, the truth of Torah, perform mitzvahs, which is really the same as before that we spoke about, but the difference is it's the prayer that's bringing me to it, rather than the meditation upon the greatness of God and God's presence in the world and how that will bring me a longing and desire to cleave, to merge my spirit and God's spirit. Here, it's coming from the prayer that will then lead me to the study of Torah, that will then lead me to doing the mitzvahs. And it will lead me to do the mitzvahs in a manner that I will have, just as we say in a blessing, that we're sanctified to God, like a marriage that's through the act of doing a mitzvah, which is, just like marriage is an effort. If you don't put effort into the marriage, of course, it's not going to work. So, in other words, it's not just, it can't just, it's from above and, it'll all take care of itself. No. We've got to work hard at it. So likewise over here, that this is a cleaving of our spirit in God's spirit, merging, coming together as one with God, that is coming in from that effort from within, that we become now sanctified, we become elevated from the human condition. So much so that we're able to transcend to the level of what we call the encompassing light of God. Not able to transcend to where there's nothing else but God, but to an encompassing light of God that transcends creation, which is the will of God. So all of this will bring us to that deeper connection, and through the Shema, the blessings of the Shema, and so on. Now, the Alter Rebbe says, this higher form of tshuva, because what is the tshuva over here? The higher form is a tshuva, again, not for any sins, but it's prayer that is bringing to that experience of tshuva ilah, that higher form of connection of my soul just merging and being bound up with God, that will express itself from the prayers, will express itself further in my study of Torah, my doing of a mitzvah, that doing of that mitzvah will be in a manner that will uplift me, kedusha, sanctify, a betrothal that I am beyond the human condition, connected to God as marriage connects two people, man and woman. The Alter Rebbe says that nonetheless, even though we have this higher form of Teshuvah through prayer, yet we need to, it has to be predicated, this higher form of Teshuvah, on the lower form of Teshuvah. In other words, there has to be first the idea of taking care of the things that we need to own, the things that we need to fix, and to work on that, and then come to the higher level. And we see this concept as explained by the sages, that they say that a person should only begin their prayers with, embark in prayer with an earnest frame of mind. In other words, a humility, which that is a state of a lower level of Teshuvah. The humility that we spoke about, a contrite heart, the broken heart that we are need to fix whatever needs to be fixed. And yet our sages say that we begin prayer with the humility, or we predicate prayer with the humility, but when it comes to actual prayer, it has to be with joy. So is it humility or joy? It's first humility and then joy. Humility is the lower level of Teshuvah, of return, and then joy is the higher level of return, because it's the joy of just returning and being connected, merging, cleaving my soul in the Spirit of God. And then, of course, expressing it through Torah and mitzvahs. So that's what the concept of joy is. So the Alter Rebbe says, well, that might be a very difficult thing to transform yourself from humility to joy. So maybe separated. Back in the day, people did Tikkun Chatzos, the midnight prayer, and then they would do the morning prayer. So midnight prayer would be with the humility, then the morning davening would be with joy. You know, the Alter Rebbe says, well, even back in the day, 200 years ago, they did not do Tikkun Chatzos all the time. So he said, at least do it, the Thursday night before Shabbos, because Shabbos is a reflection of Teshuvah Ilah, the higher form of Teshuvah, especially the prayers on Shabbos. So if you proceeded with doing Tikkun Chatzos, that midnight prayer, which is about the destruction of the Holy Temple and so on. Quite honest, I don't know people who do this today, Tikkun Chatzos, but we will see in the forthcoming that how it's possible to have two things at the same time. But that's where we are right now. The idea being that the humility and the joy that you need to have in prayer are hard to come together at the same time. That's the point we're bringing out right now, at the end of this chapter, but we will see in forthcoming that the two can actually coincide together, but that's not for now. The point being is that prayer is about the heart, and in the heart there are two basic layers, that one reflects the lower level of Teshuvah, and one reflects the higher level of Teshuvah. The lower level is about the humility and the contrite heart, meaning the things that we need to own, the things we need to change, the things we need to better. The outer layer of the heart. But then deeper in the heart, all there is just the desire to return and become connected with God. Not because we're lacking, not because we've got to fix something that's been done, but because there's just that inner that actually, it is an inner desire, but it's something that we are conscious of and aware of, and that our prayers bring us, digging deeper in our heart, to a return to Hashem that brings us to do for God, meaning study Torah and do mitzvahs, in a manner that it lifts us up, elevates us beyond the human condition to a level of the encompassing light of God, that we become and embraced through the mitzvah. I hope that was clear. Powerful idea. Let me see if we have any questions. All right. Any thoughts? Leti from San Diego, Shavua Tov. Carlos from Brazil, Shalom. Luz. I'm sure I did not pronounce that right. Good evening. You must be across the ocean. Thank you for joining. Ayan from Mexico, Shavua Tov. And Michelle, good morning. Mary from Montreal, thank you for joining. Stephanie from Illinois. Pablo from Florida. Denise is asking a question. How does Teshuvah affect us when after 120 years? So if we do Teshuvah, that means we've cleansed over here. That means we don't need the cleansing going through Gehenna later. That's the basic idea. So that's why it's good to do it here as best as we can. Might be still some lingering stuff, but don't worry about Gehenna. Worry about this world and doing the good that we need to do. And the Teshuvah that we have to do. Irene, thank you for joining. Karen, Shavua Tov to you in LA. Tracy, good morning. And Gila, Shavua Tov. Cindy from Idaho, Shavua Tov. Una from Iowa. And Aryeh from Florida. All right, are you? Very good. Priscilla, thank you for joining from sent an article and questions. Oh, yes. Just bring it up over here, Denise, again. Joseph, good morning. Edgar from Guatemala, thank you for joining. John, Sabrina, Shavua Tov. Clem, thank you. From Brisbane, thank you. Thank you, Lati. Carrie from Kansas. Good morning, Sigalit. In New York. Sigalit, yeah, you mentioning about the prayer that we start with Hoidu, which is humility, and then we come to a state of joy in Shema. The truth is, here we're speaking about starting Hoidu with joy, not with the humility. Before the prayer, once we start prayer, joy. That's where we need to be at. Andrew, does Torah study help cleanse the soul? Absolutely. Menachem Mendel, thank you for joining. John from Texas. Yes, absolutely. It's cleansing. Every mitzvah that we do, all the time we study Torah, no doubt. But here we're talking about deeper layers in the heart that we reach through prayer, through this combination, as we just explained. Folks, a reminder, tonight will be a Torah studies class on the Parsha, starting a new book, Devarim, Deuteronomy. So join It's on Chabad ZK or on Zoom. If you want more information on that, I strongly urge you to private message me your email so we can get you on the list of all the other good things happening. All right, I think that's it. I don't see any other questions. Beautiful. Folks, sharing is caring. Please share with others the Alter Rebbe's teachings. Tonight at 6:30. Thank you, Denise. Yes, 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. That's right, Vilma. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine coming to you from my home in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have a wonderful day. A good Tevach, Shavua Tov, a good week.